Hello everyone, and I welcome you to another game with me. Now we'll be going up against another Zerg player here. It's going to be International Zerg Day for me today. We're going to be playing against mostly Zergs today. Our opponent here, Spider Slayer, is in the Masters League. And don't mind the chatting, this is something I like to do if I'm in a good mood. Or sometimes if I want to get a feel for my opponent, see what type of player he is, I will chat him up sometimes. But anyway, back on topic. If ever you want to try to do something similar to what I do, or if you just don't like Hellions or Reapers into your play, that's fine. You can opt for a more defensive style of play. And what you want to do is exchange the Hellions for a better Marine count. In retrospect, what it does is that the Marine counts will allow you to defend more properly. So you don't necessarily need to scout what your opponent is doing. There's a couple things you have to keep in mind, like some timings, but as a general rule, as long as you have really good building placement and sufficient Marines, you should be able to hold off whatever. So the first timing you should know is the 6 pool. Hits around 255 around this location here. 7 pool is a little bit less common. It hits around 255 at the entrance of your main. It'll be at your base around 305, 3010 really. So because our opponent is just going for standard, we can expo. The expo is a little bit late here. I normally like to get it around 3, but that's okay. So we're going to be scouting with the Marine because we can, so why wouldn't we? So what you want to scout with the Marine is the timing of the hatchery. Now, if your opponent engages this Marine in mid-map, maybe a little bit closer to his side, but still in mid-map, it means he's going for a one-base play. He cannot be going for a hatchery and then getting it for a pool and then getting early zinglings like that early. So as long as you just cancel the CC and try to wall off and hold the high ground, you should be okay. Now, at 4 minutes, you're going to be scouting this. Our opponent's hatchery is a little bit late, but that's okay. If you scout your opponent's hatchery finishing or just the creep spread just barely spreading around this time, it means your opponent went for a hatch first, which is what he's doing right now. If your opponent's hatchery is just barely finishing, like maybe 15 seconds away, it means he went for pool first, but don't need to worry about that because it's not very common. So our opponent's lings are popping out. Our opponent can have lings pop up between 425 and 430, but, well, my Marine's already at home, which is why I'm scouting, because we can get away with it. If your opponent is going for a 15 hatch, well, then you can always get away with scouting. Be very careful doing this. Be very careful. You can only take out any overlords if your opponent went for a 15 hatch. Or hatch first, I should say. If he's going for any sort of build, anything else other than 15 hatch, you can't take care of overlords. So just be careful when doing this. And the reason why is because with hatch first, the queens will pop out around 430. Injects take about 40 seconds, and the lings take a good 24-25 seconds. So the lings will pop out around 5:45 around now, so you got a good amount of time before the bunkers come up. Until then, your opponent can only send like 6 lings at a time to your to your base, and it just doesn't go well for harassment. Anyway. So you saw that my opponent mention the CC first while I was poking around. It's because the reason I don't do CC first is because it allows me to scout. And because he thinks I scout, he's going to try and be sneaky and incorporate some roach play here. The reason I don't go for CC first is because I went up against a Zerg player one day who actually drone scouted with his worker, and scouted me going for CC first. And in response, he just threw down a proxy hatchery, and I wasn't able to do anything until like 7 or 8 minutes when I was finally able to take everything down. I mean, you might say something like, well, you can also get like a hidden expansion, maybe a hidden over here or over there, but it's not something I'm comfortable doing. It's not something I like doing. Another thing you can do, especially since Heart of the Swarm came out, I see some people going, very rarely, but I do see it from time to time, going for roaches and then just going for an early burrow since you don't need a lair. Yeah, that's an annoying thing to do, and that has actually killed me when I went for CC first. So because of those 2 reasons, I generally tend not to do it. Maybe I'll try to find a game for you guys so you guys can understand exactly what I'm talking about. So already, our opponent is going to be doing stuff. I had Marines in the main base just because 6:30 is a good common time for opponent to Overlord scout or sacrifice an Overlord, and the Marines back there do help with that. So because I didn't have all my forces here, You can see even without all my Marines, I'm still able to clean this up very easily. I mean, I lost maybe 2 Marines here, even without the 4 Marines that were in the main. So just keep in mind if you're doing this, that as long as you have good positioning, you can take care of everything. The depot placement here takes care of the Zerglings. The Zerglings AI will bunch up, and as long as you have your workers repairing in the back, you should be okay. This is also good versus roaches because the roaches will be sidetracked by the depots, and that's always funny. It's always funny to see this happen. Zerglings and roaches won't give you problems, but sometimes banelings will give you problems. If you want to defend against banelings, you'll have to complete the wall off over here, and repairing can also help. But generally what I like to do is spread your marines, maybe separate them, maybe between 10 and 12 marines have to be here up front. They don't all need to be spread out. Like, you can keep the rest of your Marines in the back bunched up. It doesn't really matter. As long as the Banelings don't get a clump of Marines, the Baneling all-in doesn't really do anything. And of course, because I know that my opponent went for Roaches, I know that since he had the gas for the Roaches, he can't really spare that much gas, so he can't really have a Baneling nest. If he does, he can't really spare much for the Banelings, so we're going to attack. Our opponent is going to try and do counter pressure, but it doesn't work. You don't need to pressure here. You can if your opponent hasn't taken down Marines, but if your opponent is going for like Baneling all-in, what you can do instead is just sit back. The all-in or pressure build that your opponent is going will usually um, it will usually take away lots of drones that he could have had, and because it already does damage that way, you don't necessarily need to counterattack like here. But if you know your opponent doesn't have Banelings, then by all means. If you see him going for roach play or some sort of ling run by or mass ling thing at 6:30, which does happen from time to time, counterattacking at around, well, when combat shield is done is really good. So once again, just to recap, as long as you have the proper positioning for the buildings and as long as you have the marine numbers, you can hold off everything. So you don't necessarily need to scout if that's your intention. So if you do plan to exclude Hellions from the build, this is one good way of doing it. And the Hellions, although they do provide decent scouting information, are not the best when trying to hold off roach all-ins or something like that. So I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was informative. So you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys next time, and bye-bye for now.